Well, thank you for having me. I've been asked to say a few words about the research and innovation ecosystem that we've established across the north of England. It's an ecosystem that's been around now since 2011, and we've actually established it as a company, limited by guarantee, not for profit, supported by a number of the members that constitute our health research environment. Next slide. What we're trying to do across the north of England is make it simpler to navigate the health innovation environment, whether you're a clinician, whether you're working in government, academia, or industry. And it can be incredibly difficult to navigate such a complicated environment. Whether it's crossing from the clinical domain to government or academia to industry, each of the environments that we work in are driven by different incentives and different behaviors. But to have a health innovation ecosystem work as one, you need as many of these partners working towards the same common goal. Not only is it difficult working between those ecosystems, it can be a challenge to work even within them, taking top-level new strategy and implementing it within, say, for example, the NHS in England. Now, we recognised that this was becoming an increasingly and we wanted to simplify it as much as possible by trying to bring some of that ecosystem together to be able to have a single voice and a single narrative for engagement. Next slide. So across the north of England, we've brought the medical schools of 8 leading universities, often referred to as the N8, linked with their NHS research intensive teaching hospital and the 4 academic health science networks that bind the north of England's innovation environment. So in effect, we cover every hospital and every university across the north of England's 15 million population. But in reality, we're working directly with those research intensive hospitals and research intensive universities. Now, many of you will be wondering how on earth we got that number of stakeholders to work together. The reason is because we understood a common set of objectives and aims, and that was about improving the health outcomes of the population we serve. The one goal we share is bringing as much innovation and research as we can into the teaching hospitals that we represent, because teaching hospitals that have more research have better patient outcomes. Now, we do that through 4 key activities, and I'll just come on to my last slide. The first is that we act as a pooled resource for having a single voice for the north of England's health research ecosystem. That can be directly with national government, it can be with local stakeholders here in the UK, or it can be with international partners, and we've already formed strategic alliances with partners in Singapore, in Japan, Australia, and in Canada. The second thing we do is we act as a framework, a pre-formed consortia for bringing together one part of one university, one part of another hospital, another part of another university to be able to tackle the research agenda that we're interested in. Thirdly, as I've mentioned, we're trying to actively drive research traffic into our hospitals. Hospitals that do more research have better patient outcomes, and by association, you start to get economic development around those health innovation ecosystems. And thirdly, to act as an advocate and a champion for the North's health research environment. Many people, when they think of a particular country, they often consolidate on areas of known expertise. In the UK, around the Golden Triangle of London, Cambridge and Oxford. What we've done is create a northern powerhouse of health research, and we go out there and advocate for that health innovation ecosystem to find partners wherever they may be in the world. And I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hakim. That was great. We look forward to speaking and having some questions. Then we'll ask Brian to close our session, or the speakers with his presentation. Can you hear us, Brian?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, go ahead.
Right, I think you've got my first slide there.
Yes,
I guess
we
you
do.
must have. Yep. Okay, so the first thing I have to say is I'm at an airport. If you hear children in particular crying in the background, they're not mine, as far as I know. And I just want you all to be aware of that. I have to have a look at them first. So on my first slide, and to introduce, about 7 years ago, I set up what's now called the European Connected Health Alliance, better known these days as the ECHAlliance. Originally, the idea was to do a lot of what Hakim is already doing, which is to break the silos that exist. And they do exist, as we know. And as Hakim pointed out, and he and I know each other well, it is amazing to me that people working even in the same institution, even on the same building and the same floor, do not know each other. I find that staggering. So I decided to be the self-appointed global connector, as one does. And what we decided to do, and it sort of has taken off now. Today, for example, I've just come in from Dublin, Ireland, to my place called the Isle of Man. And essentially there we have 200 people in the room representing research institutes, government, industry, patient groups, economic development agencies, venture capital and private equity. And this would be a very typical ecosystem. We believe that the only way to break down the silos is to have people from all stakeholders in the same room, leading with the need, not a talking shop, but actually saying this is an issue for this particular region or country. We have 30 of these ecosystems. You could show the next slide, perhaps. There are 30 of these ecosystems across Europe at the moment. And basically, you also see on the right-hand side of my slide, or at least on my right-hand side, a number soon-to-be ecosystems. You'll very quickly know that because I'm Irish, I do not allow the word European to constrain me in any way. So we already are opening ecosystems in other parts of the world, because we now have an agreement with what are still referred to sometimes as the British Commonwealth, but now more politically correctly called the Commonwealth. So there are 53 countries in the Commonwealth that we work with, and they want us to replicate what we've done in Europe by creating ecosystems throughout all those 53 countries. It'll take a little while, but we're underway with that. And maybe the last slide, and I'm doing this quickly because I know you all maybe have questions for Hakim, myself, and other speakers. The last slide there, you will see actually sums up our global connector role. Essentially, what we're trying to do is to bring the stakeholders together, identify needs, and then connect those to solutions. And we do that particularly by almost personal connection. Sounds really old-fashioned, doesn't it? But the reality is that personal connections are what works. And we've found that even today. Today, as an example again, so we have 200 meetings a year. We're able to walk in today and say, oh, it's good to see you again, to someone else. Thank you last week. So at the beginning, it's difficult. It takes a little while. But after a while, you build a community. You build relationships, and then, of course, you build trust. And trust is the basis, in my view, for anyone wanting to do business with. So my final words would be this. We invite you to be connected through the ECHAlliance into our global connector network. If you decide to do so, you'd be very welcome. There is no financial charge for that. We're simply asking you to connect into the way we set up ecosystems. We're happy to advise you on that. But we would just like you to be part of it and give you an instant connection to all those 78 countries. So thank you very much for listening.
Great, thank you. Well, we're going to keep Hakim and Brian on Skype, and we're going to invite the other speakers that are local here to join me on stage. This is truly a global panel. Oh, and I'm going to give this to... Do we have one more? Okay. Okay, fantastic. Thank you guys all very much. So again, reminder about Slido, and raise your hands. We do it the old-fashioned way.